This is A's Cast Live, your comprehensive look at the Oakland Athletics.
And the pitch is swung on, hit the right field, hit deep. Whitefield going back at the track, over his head, and over the wall. Do you believe that?
And 29 other MLB clubs.
Ramirez with a drive to deep right, away back, goal!
Hey, gets a bomb out there by the Rocks. And boy, oh boy, this third inning is now showtime.
It is a judging blast. All rise. Here comes the judge.
Join us as we take you inside the baseball universe, from humidors to spin rates to game-changing moments. We have you covered. Spend your afternoon with us next from the town, only on A's Cast Live. Here's Chris Townsend.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of A's Cast Live. I hope everybody had a great weekend. Weather has been fantastic. Really haven't had a hot summer.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean,
No.
It's pretty mild.
Not too many. I mean, for some of you may say, well, hey, where I live, it's been over 100. But, you know, in a lot of places, we haven't had that hot of a summer. But good times. Hope you had a good weekend. I know you were you were hanging out the Mojave Desert.
Pretty much. And it was, believe it or not, it was only like 85 degrees there.
In the Mojave Desert.
Yeah,
it wasn't 127.
No, but coming back, going through Bakersfield and Fresno and going up 5, it was like 102 degrees. Then you
Fresno.
Then you go over Hecker Pass and you come down into Gilroy and it's like 75 and it's like sprinkling. And
beautiful Gilroy.
And then
smells great this time of year.
Oh, I know. I lived in Morgan Hill. The smell of mushrooms and garlic.
Did you say Fresno?
Fresno.
Ugh.
And then once you hit San Jose, it was like 85 degrees again. It was great. The weather was just all over the place for me on the way home.
Yeah, I said it. Did I rip Fresno? Yeah, I did it. Got no problem with it. And you know exactly what I'm talking about, you Bulldogs.
I can't.
Forever hate.
I'm disappointed I can't make it to the San Jose State Fresno State game this year. It's on November 11th. My wife goes, "That's our anniversary. You can't."
Who cares?
I'm like, it's our second one.
Who cares? You know what my wife did on our anniversary this year?
I was here for your anniversary, but I don't remember.
Yeah. You know what she did?
We went to NBC.
Yeah. My wife went to the Taylor Swift 22 years of carrying her and these kids. And what do I get for my anniversary? I get to pay for them to go to Taylor Swift. All right? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Who used to say, oh, is that The Rock?
The Rock,
It
yes.
doesn't matter. What does it really matter the day you got married? My wife used to act like that was such a big deal. 22 years later, oh, you're going to work that day, right? It wasn't like, hey, are you working?
Can you get the day off?
Can you? Yeah, no. I was like, hey, you're working, right? I'm in. We're gonna go to the Taylor Swift concert. Oh, by the way, yeah, you go make extra money at NBC to pay for the Taylor Swift concert.
Well, no.
That didn't even pay for the Taylor Swift concert.
Don't worry, your wife, just like mine, they're trying to get tickets to go somewhere else to see Taylor Swift.
And now we're gonna travel somewhere else to go see Taylor. Like, get out of here with that anniversary stuff. You think your wife cares? Your wife's been to Cabo or a Cancun. She's down in Southern California. She's
Seattle.
She's drinking everywhere. And now this one day you can't go to a football game?
Oh, hold on. Just to pile on.
Ridiculous.
Because I'm sure she's probably not listening. She is home, though. And if just found out in September, she's going to go on a trip to Florida with her grandparents.
But this one day you can't go to a football game.
This
one day, because it was the day that you got married years, it's ridiculous. You have my permission to say, listen, lady, I gave you what you wanted. You wanted the ring. Did you get the ring? So all your friends and your family could see you get married? Yep. All right. I'm going to San Jose State, Fresno State.
It's a big game. It's a Mountain West Conference game.
That's our rival. We hate those dirtbags. Okay. Moving on.
November 11th, Fresno. Low New should I say Fresno, so that's why I say it.
And by the way, I hate Twitter now.
It's actually called X.
X, whatever the hell you want. X marks the spot. Because now you get all these people, all this stuff that you don't want. And I know you go over to the things you're following, then you go to the other one, and it's all this stuff. I'm just going to say this. I now get all this stuff about politics in the Bay Area, because I follow A's stuff. You get all the A's stuff and all the fan stuff. And then today, all of a sudden, I got all this Raider Niner stuff. I'm just going to say this.
Algorithms.
I'm just going to, which, by the way, they're pretty shady. There's a lot of shady stuff that has happened that especially in politics, there's a lot of shady stuff.
Oh, they meant the algorithms.
The algorithms are shady. You don't think they change things and change people's perspective and change how people feel? And I mean, it's crazy. Showing you what certain thing, it's crazy. But anyway, just going to say this. If you think that at any point, whether it was back in the days, Candlestick, back in the days at the Coliseum, if you think at any point that the Niners beating up the Raiders in any kind of game, that the Niner fans wouldn't be squawking, you're out of your mind. I lived it for many, many years. Any chance 49er fan got to rip the Raiders, they took it. And they never took the high road. So you can say preseason, week one of the preseason, which it is. It doesn't matter at all. But don't be acting like, oh, the Raider fans. No, we remember how you acted all those years. That's pot calling the kettle black right there. Would you? We were in sports talk for many, many years. If this was week one, preseason, Candlestick Park years ago, and the Niners put it on the Raiders, what would have all the Niners fans said?
A lot of trash talking about how bad the Raiders are.
So you know what? Shut it. I know it doesn't mean anything. Do I have to see all this? So look at the attendance. It's all folks. People sell their preseason tickets. If you don't know how the ticket game works, people are always selling their tickets. That's how Vegas is going to work. They're going to sell their ticket. It's a moneymaker. I had friends who bought season tickets to this day at Levi Stadium to do what? Sell them and make money.
Like Taylor Swift tickets.
Yeah, that's a whole different ticket.
Yeah, my wife showed me the resale market on the shows that this got announced.
That's
my lord.
Different. I want to start today's show out with what happened yesterday in the postgame show. Because I think it was absolutely ridiculous. Yes. Have we ever seen that before in franchise history? Nope. Could the narrative, it's the young guys, which we're gonna see about the young guys. Jonathan Mayo from MLB Pipeline is going to join us here at 2:30. The great Chip Carey, one of the best play-by-play guys from the Carey family, grandfather Harry Carey.
Hey.
Skip Carey was his father all those years with the Braves. He used to be with the Braves. He's now the Cardinals. He's going to join us at 3:30. But I can't wait. We're going to settle this. Jonathan Mayo, what is young? Because we're still trying to sell 24, 25 as young. I don't know if modern-day professional sports, 25 and 24 is really young. But yesterday, the screw-up was not young. Trevor May's 33, Kirby Snead's 28. Yeah, Nick Allen with the boot there, but the pitching, the steam rolled it.
You walked four guys in the ninth inning.
That wasn't from, was that from anybody who was 17 years old?
No.
No. Okay. So hard to pin it on that because now everybody wants to pin everything like we have a bunch of children playing. All right. But all of a sudden there's outrage. Or there was like, disappointment and scoffing, and I cannot believe. My whole point in the postgame is welcome to the party. All right. What drove me nuts is I've been doing this all year long. I got to come out. I mean, they've lost 85 games. I'm coming on after every one of these losses. How many games have I missed? 5, 6, something like that?
Yeah, it's not many.
I have been on after at least 78, 79 losses. And now you're disappointed. That was my whole point. Oh, now you're going to be critical. Because every single time, whether I talk to our broadcasters, talk to the callers, I'm watching NBC, or when I'm at NBC, everybody's like, well, excuses. Now, after 85 losses, you're going to be upset. Now you're going to join that party. And that's why I went the opposite route yesterday. I went the opposite route. You want to now, in August, have disgust? You now, in August, want to have disappointment? Where the hell you been for all these months? Don't come standing on my wall when you haven't been here. You've been making every excuse in the book when some people have been calling it like it is. So you know what? I called it like it is again yesterday. How is it? Listen, Geloff's incredible. Geloff is showing you that he has the potential ability, to be the type of player that changes games. Like, we can get his stats and we can get all that kind of stuff, but when you watch Geloff, he affects the game. He affects it offensively. He affects it on the bases. He can affect it defensively. This kid is special. And it's not a one-trick pony. I'll give you a one-trick pony. Rooker. Rooker was a one-trick pony for that month. Okay? But Rooker's not good defensively. Rooker's not good at running the bases. And Rooker just found it for that month. And we got all excited, but you had to go like, we know who the player really is, and he's turned back into the player he really is. Geloff's different. Geloff has the ability to hit the ball all over the field. This is something that's, I'm sure he had hitting lessons. But the reality is, certain guys who are special, this is something they've been doing for a long time. It's like when people talk about Freddie Freeman all the time. He's got the ability, right? You remember Manny Ramirez, and I know Manny, we think of PD, but Manny Ramirez is one of the greatest right-handed hitters of all time because Manny sprayed it everywhere. Now, I'm not making a comparison. I'm just saying guys that no matter where you pitch it, they can hit it. You pitch it up, you pitch it down, you pitch it out, you pitch it in. I can hit you all over the ballpark. I can go foul pole to foul pole. That's what we should be concentrating on. Because that's the only thing that matters. Because as I said yesterday in the post-game show, the majority of these guys are not going to be here. There's no reason, when you really think about it, at this point, 85 losses into the season, to really care what a lot of these guys who are not a part of the future. Yeah, I want to see Lawrence Butler. And there was a question, would he go down after Tony Kemp came back? Nope, he's still here. I want to see Langoliers. Can he get better? I've told you for a while, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but I was one of the early people to say, Ruiz is not a center fielder. Like, you guys can make your excuses, but where is he today?
Left field.
Left field. He's in left field. But I want to see how Ruiz plays. I want to see how Blade plays. That's what matters. To now, like, take one game because it's a historical thing, and to now that we're all going to be just, I cannot believe this happened. Like, really? You cannot believe it happened? Like, what about Trevor May and Kirby Snead makes you think, who, by the way, both these players are not long-term A's? And that's cruel. I hate to say that, but it's just a reality. You have to, if you're going to look at this from a baseball standpoint, so many of these guys are not going to be here. They're not a part of the future. Certainly not going to be here in 2028. That's another thing that it's tough to talk about, but it is a reality. You start thinking about 2028. Who could be here? And it's not going to be a 33-year-old reliever or a 28-year-old left-hander. So after I was not going to come on. I've come on plenty of nights upset about how things have happened. But yesterday I was like, who are we kidding? I'm not going to have a bunch of people now pile on in mid-August when we've been doing this starting in March, by the way. Season started in March.
Starts in March next year, too.
Right? March, late March, April, May, June, July. That's a lot of ball games. But now in mid-September, you're going to show up.
August.
Now you're going to, oh my God. Save it. What matters right now is who is a part. Is Soderstrom going to be the beast we think he can be? We'll ask Jonathan Mayo.
Playing first today, by the way.
Yeah. Well, gee, back-to-back games playing first. Isn't that something we called for? Instead of DHing and catching. By the way, that's right. No, he caught yesterday, right?
Yeah.
Did you see him in the ninth inning? Can't catch the ball?
I saw it was a pass ball. Right? I was following the
There
game
was
on
a
game
pass
day.
ball and other issues.
Oh.
He shouldn't be catching. This is where he should be. And when Ryan Noda comes back, we'll have that discussion. I don't know when Noda's going to come back, but when Ryan Noda comes back, we'll have that discussion.
You mentioned Lawrence Butler, and you want to see him play more? He already has a defensive run saved, and he's played in 24 2/3 innings out there in the outfield.
Give me Ruiz's defensive run saved.
Do I have to?
Oh, he's only been playing center field for 2 years. Put it this way. If your main organization deemed, you can't play middle of the infield, we're going to move you to outfield. And now 2 years later, you're deeming, I'm not so sure about it either. You got problems.
Overall, SD in the outfield is minus 17.
Where is he in base? And remember, now he's been out with the shoulder. Where is he in all of baseball if he's minus 17?
Let me see if I can do that on here.
I mean, how many people are that low?
He's the worst by a wide margin. According to the Fielding Bible, fieldingbible.com.
So a couple months ago, did I not mention that? I don't think he's the center fielder. This isn't working.
Correct, yes.
And I got told, he's 2 years in, he's working on it. Well, I've come to find out people in the front office are starting to think like me. Yeah, I may not be a scout. Yeah, I may not played Major League Baseball. But I think I got a pretty decent eye about talent. I've been watching the game long enough. I've worked in professional sports, in the NFL, in the NBA. I've watched professional athletes. You see what the good ones look like. And Ruiz, not a center fielder. And then all of a sudden you go to the metrics, he's the worst in baseball. But Ruiz has got to play because Ruiz can be a game changer. I'm not throwing Ruiz away at all. That's not what I'm saying. Your job as a coaching staff in a front office in any sport is to find the best role for your players. That's your job. How do you help the players maximize their abilities and help you win? And that's not going to be center field for Ruiz. And you clearly have seen right out of the gate, Bladay's better in center field. And now you're going to see Butler's better in center field. Why? And it's not Ruiz's fault because Ruiz is an infielder. You tried to make something work. You tried to, you tried to put that square into the round hole. Very rarely does it work. There's not a whole lot of Robin Younts out there who go from shortstop to center field. Doesn't happen. It's called an outlier. Outliers. There's always outliers, but you really look at the norms, but that's okay. Ruiz is a super talented guy. Find somewhere else. That's why I've said when we were struggling, when you're putting old guys in the infield, it's like put a second baseman's glove on him, see what he's got. Was he really that bad in the Padres system? I mean, C.J. Abrams, you just saw him over the weekend for the Nationals, part of the Soto trade. He's one of the reasons why Ruiz got bumped to the outfield because this kid's a legit shortstop prospect. And now he's, Washington's got to think they got a pretty good shortstop for years to come.
Yeah, I mean, he clearly had nowhere to play in San Diego because of Tatis. Well, now Tatis is playing the outfield. But yeah.
Tatis was at the big league level.
Yeah, yeah.
You had C.J. Abrams in the minors.
Yeah, well, I'm saying he would have never made it to the majors unless they would have known and they didn't have Kim because Kim, by metrics, could be the MVP, but of course he doesn't have the home runs and RBI, but everything else,
he's got the WAR.
He has the WAR. He's having a great year.
And by the way, Bob Melvin told us in spring, didn't tell you, but we were behind the scenes with him at Ho-Ho Cam. He said one of the problems that the Padres have is you got a bunch of guys who don't want to change positions. And ding, 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 it was Tatis Jr. was one of them. And they're a better team with him at shortstop and Tatis out in right field. And Tatis has turned out to be a really good outfielder.
If you look at defensive runs saved, which I'm doing right now, the leader is Fernando Tatis Jr. at 21. Yeah.
So Kim's
fourth.
Betters you at shortstop.
Yeah.
Right? Tatis betters you in the outfield. But Tatis didn't want to do it. But hopefully now for Bob Melvin, Tatis has realized, this is kind of comfortable out here because he's supremely athletic, got a rocket of an arm. Once again, put guys in position. Hey, sorry, Tatis, you're a butcher at short. We're going to put you out in outfield, and it's a great fit. We will have a little bit later. They did on MLB Network today. I was watching earlier today about teams, start of the year payrolls, and where are we now? It's wow. It's crazy. Got to get into Shohei Ohtani a little bit later. And a developing story in Major League Baseball that is scary and sad. And this Wander Franco stuff that we're finding out about, a potential relationship with a minor. He is not with the team. He's on what list did they put him on?
They put him on the restricted list. They mutually agreed to go on the restricted list.
So he's not going to be with the team. And social media post. And this is something in baseball. And it's not somebody we're going to bring on and really go over this. I'm going to give you an example, though. So yesterday after the show, I had to help my kids or senior pictures and this kind of stuff. So I had to help with the family stuff. But then I snuck out late to join my buddies to play a little late golf. And one of my dear friends who I played with at San Jose State, I think you've met him, but he was a great pitcher in college, got drafted by the Angels, played in Cedar Rapids, Iowa.
Great city.
And then played for the Lake Elsinore Storm.
Cal League.
In the Cal League. And we're talking about this Wander stuff. And then, like any minor league baseball player, you have the, oh boy, yeah, man, I got stories. There's so many stories for decades about small towns, minor league players, international guys that are coming from a different country, don't speak the language. Next thing you know, you're being put up in house with families. You know, there's families that got paid to house guys. There's crazy stories that have come out of minor league baseball. It's kind of something baseball doesn't want to talk about. They don't want to publicize this. The whole Annie Savoy, if I say Annie Savoy, why do I think you're not going to know?
I have no idea.
Annie Savoy. It's a famous character in a movie.
Oh, wait, is that from Bull Durham?
That's Bull Durham. That's Annie Savoy. But Annie Savoy was a middle-aged person.
Is that Susan Sarandon?
Susan Sarandon.
Okay, I've seen the movie once, so that's why.
It's literally the best baseball movie of all time. You've only seen it one time.
It's a matter of opinion.
I said one of.
Oh, he said the best.
I said one of.
Oh, yeah, it is. That's what everyone says. I've seen it once. I've only ever seen Field of Dreams once. They're not on all the time like Major League and stuff are, so that's why I've seen those movies way more.
But those are just spoofs.
Yeah.
This was Field of Dreams is a movie that's more about a father-son relationship. Bull Durham actually becomes about people that are getting older and out of their, these are actual movies versus just straight, you put snot on the ball comedies.
I'm just here to help the ball club.
Yeah. So Annie Savoy was a character in a small town who ends up having relationships with younger ball players. See, the way they made Annie Savoy look, well, they have a reason for that character. But unfortunately, that character in these small minor league towns usually isn't someone like Susan Sarandon. And there's been problems with this. closer for the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Felipe Vasquez. He's not in prison.
I mean, underage minors and minor league baseball player, man, it's something that doesn't get talked a lot about, but unfortunately from just, you talk to anybody in our game, it's so we'll see how that's going to work, but he is not with the team, and I don't know where this goes. And ever since he signed that contract, it has not been smooth sailing for the Rays. Once again, sign a guy long-term, he's wrapped up, and then all of a sudden, man, it is amazing how, if we actually documented all these long-term deals, how many of these long-term deals, think about your life. Can you imagine if you said 10 years? Think of the last 10 years of your life. Think of all the things that have happened in the last 10 years of your life. A lot, right?
Been married twice.
He's been divorced. He's been remarried. You've gone through all these ups and downs in your life, right? But we want to sign these guys in baseball to these long-term contracts, and we have these press conferences, and we go out in front of these cameras and the media, and we act like we just signed this guy for 9-10 years, and the next 9-10 years are just going to be Camelot. It's just going to be perfect. It's going to be like going to Disneyland every single day. You go to Disneyland, you get on the rides, they have the parade, you get to wave at Mickey, and we're just going to Groundhog Day do this every single day for 10 years. But as we all know in life, that's not the way it is. I mean, 10 years of your life. I want everybody right now who's watching and listening, think about everything that's happened in the last 10 years of your life. Like I think about, I've had to bury both my parents. I've had to bury both of my in-laws. We've had tragedy. We've had death. We've had just, think about the divorce between 95-7, the game, and the A's that I had to endure. The reason why I came to work for the A's. Think about losing my job with the Raiders because they moved to Vegas. I mean, there's been just craziness in my life. There's been craziness in your life for the last 10 years.
Don't forget COVID,
the lockout. I mean, crazy stuff's happened in the last 10 years. But we sign players and we have press conferences that act like, don't worry about it. Next 10 years. You know what the buzzword now is in baseball? Aircraft carriers. They love using the word aircraft carrier. Because an aircraft carrier is incredible, right? Have you ever been on an aircraft carrier?
No, but I've seen them.
You can go down to one. They have the old one that's
San Diego.
In San Diego.
I've seen it from afar. I've never been on it.
You can tour. It's a city. It's a boat that's a city. But you got to have aircraft carriers. Ezekiel Elliott has just signed with the
Patriots. Yeah.
Wow.
Bill Belichick got another running back.
Wait, no. Remember Ezekiel Elliott signed him long term with the Cowboys because everything's going to be great. It's just another example. It's not smart to sign human beings to long-term deals because human beings have stuff that goes on. And I just wonder now, as I had to tell him, it was like 2-3 days ago, MLB Network highlighted this kid in the Rays system who had just been promoted. I had no clue who he is. I don't know who a 19-year-old is in the Rays system. Jonathan Mayo would know who he is. And he's going to join us coming up here, right?
Yeah, he's here now.
But, I just wonder how that's going to affect the Wander Franco situation. And, Jonathan, we always appreciate you stopping by A's Cast Live. Before we get into all the stuff that I want to talk about when we talk about prospects, I want to highlight your new book, Smart, Wrong, and Lucky, the original stories of baseball's unexpected stars. We all think about the great ones when they get drafted. Like Ken Griffey got drafted and you knew right away this guy was going to be great. It doesn't always work that way. Talk about your book.
Yeah, that's exactly the kind of stories I tried to tell in this book. Thanks, guys, for having me. I spend most of my time day-to-day talking to scouts, and they're such great storytellers, and they're the ones that find these guys. They see something in them, and for every Ken Griffey Jr. or Alex Rodriguez, or a guy like that, there's Albert Pujols, who's a 13th rounder out of a small junior college. Lorenzo Cain was a draft and follow in the, taken late in the 17th round. He hadn't played an inning of baseball before his sophomore year of high school. Ian Kinsler played at 3 different colleges and was a 17th round pick and amassed more WAR than anybody in his draft class. The list goes on and on. The good thing is I could, write 3 or 4 sequels in this and never run out of these great stories. So it's all stories like this. And, scouts are pretty smart and humble. So even though I gave them the chance to say, hey, now's your chance to say, I knew Jacob deGrom when we took him in the 8th or 9th round as an 88 to 90 mile an hour finesse pitcher who had mostly been a shortstop in college, that he was going to be the best pitcher on earth for a few years. You can say, yeah, I knew it. And none of them would take the bait.
Yeah, I remember when I was my senior year, before I went and played in college, my senior year of high school, our draft class, I played a lot with Tony Clark in San Diego, but it was Chipper Jones and Tony Clark. Everybody knew who they were. Right. And then I think about somebody like Mike Piazza. Like, he had the connection to Tommy Lasorda. Ted Williams came and watched him hit. I mean, he's one of the greatest right-handed hitters, one of the greatest hitting catchers of all time. Nobody knew who Mike Piazza was.
No, and I didn't even include Mike in this one, only because that would fall into the lucky category of smart, wrong, and lucky, just because that wasn't even a terrific job of scouting. That was having a connection and kind of doing a favor for Tommy Lasorda that really, really worked out. But it does show you that talent can come from pretty much anywhere.
I have noticed my relationship with scouts. Scouts love athletic ability. They see something in a guy. There's certain traits that they'll like, and they'll understand everybody's got warts. But there's certain scouts that you see over time, they nail it a lot. Not everybody, because when you're dealing with human beings, you're not always going to nail it. It's just not possible, right? But what is it about the guys that you have talked to over the years, especially the guys you really can trust? What is the characteristic that scout has that makes them have the ability to find players?
I don't know if it's one particular trait. So many of them work so incredibly hard. So I can't say that they just outwork everybody. Some of it's just a feel, really understanding. It's so hard to translate. Think about when you're looking at a high school player. And let's put aside the international guys, because you're scouting guys when they're 15 years old, and trying to project what they're going to be like when they're 25 is impossible. But you're looking at a 17-year-old, say maybe 18-year-old, playing high school baseball, and maybe not against great competition if it's not from one of these big baseball states, and trying to figure out, okay, let's add 6 years to them. Let's put a wood bat in their hands, and what are they going to be? Tell me who's going to be the next star. So having a sense and a feel for that it's such an inexact science, and even the best get it wrong all the time. But there are those that really do stand out. A guy like the late Mike Radcliffe, I think, comes to mind as one of the legends. Unfortunately, we lost him to cancer not long ago. But the reason why the Minnesota Twins took Walker Jenkins in the first round is because last summer Mike snuck out when he wasn't supposed to be out going to games because he was sick, and put an 80, which is the top of the scouting scale, on Walker Jenkins. That's a big reason why he's a Minnesota Twin right now.
Well, and I think about, Grady Fuson in our organization,
Sure.
Keith Littman, who just retired. I mean, 54 years with the Oakland Athletics. Well, actually the Athletics, because he dates back to Kansas City. That's how long Keith Littman. So when you think about great scouts, Grady Fuson's a friend. Grady Fuson's won every award you possibly can. And
Sure.
he was in the movie Moneyball that was up for an Oscar. So scouts, these guys can play such a huge role in your organization. But I got to ask you this question, because it's tormenting me right now with where the A's are. From my time also working in the NFL and from my time working in the NBA, baseball loves to call guys young. And they love to use and fall back on the excuse of guys are young. It's a young team. It's a young this. And then all of a sudden I start looking at ages and I go, wait a minute, this guy's 24. This guy's 25. This guy's not 19. This isn't this isn't someone like Al Kaline coming out of high school and playing for the Detroit Tigers. So I want to ask you, when we start talking about young, what age should we really be looking at where we can really say, well, they're going young and it's a young team and they're losing because what is young to you in Major League Baseball?
I think if you don't know who Al Kaline was when you just referenced him, that's young. I'm kidding. I think there's young, like just in terms of how, the biological age, and then there's young in terms of experience. And I think your point is a valid one, because I think the game is skewed younger and you're seeing more and more superstars, do incredible things in the big leagues at a younger age than some of the players that are coming up to the A's. But I think it's really more they have never played in the big leagues before. There's a learning curve there, regardless of how old you are. In a perfect world, guys that are a little bit older might be able to hit the ground running a little bit more. I mean, and maybe you're seeing that with a guy like Zach Geloff right now. But I think it's more inexperience than it is biological age.
Yeah, it's tough because I know with biological age is how we view guys when they get into their 30s. And, you go to like the winter meetings and you're talking to all these front office people, they don't want to pay guys in their 30s. So if guys in their 20s, let's say 23, 24, maybe even 25, I've heard some guys being called young. Those guys are young. We don't want to pay in your 30s. I mean, we have this really small window here, right? Of like, okay, you're young or you're old. I mean, there's that short. I don't know. I don't even know how to explain it to fans.
No, I don't think you're wrong then. It just means that window for some of these players who are coming up now is a smaller window than it is for a super young guy, coming up, and even for looking at guys within the A system, the window for Tyler Soderstrom to figure it out is longer. That's why there are a lot of people who advocate that guys should just sign out of high school. Just looking from a player's standpoint, right? If you want to get a good free agent contract, you almost have to sign younger or be one of those guys who gets to the big leagues really, really fast, like a Zach Nato for the Angels. I think Jacob Wilson, the A's first round pick, is a guy who should be able to move pretty quickly and get to the big leagues while he's still relatively young. Because if you don't do that, as you pointed out, teams don't want to pay the guys who are over 30 because all the data shows that once you're north of that age. And there are exceptions to every rule, and I think guys are in better and better shape for longer than they used to be. But you're less likely to get that big free agent contract if you're past that 30-year benchmark. And so if you're not coming up to the big leagues until you're 24, 25, your chance to get that payday from the player side is shorter. But also from a team standpoint, the chance for you to maximize the productivity you're going to get before a player reaches arbitration or you're going to have to pay them is much shorter.
That's why we love bringing you on, because that was really interesting, because we're talking about life, right? These are life decisions when you're a young man and you're thinking about, okay, do I want to go the college route? Do I want to go the minor league route? I think, I'm very fortunate that I got to play college baseball. I'm very fortunate that I got my school paid for and I got my education that has led me to this career. Versus high school, sign, better chance long-term to get the jackpot, the huge money, right? So it's like, it's great life lessons. There's so many things you learn not only as a baseball player or as an athlete. We talk football, basketball, whatever. There's so many great advantages to going to college and getting a degree for your life. But then there's also great advantages of getting drafted out of high school. That's a really tough call.
Sure. And then we're talking, if you really think about it, right, we're talking about a very small percentage of players who really have to think about it, because the vast majority of high school players either need college or have to go to college because they're not going to, get drafted early enough or even going to get drafted at all. And I think, for the most part, this recent time period because of COVID threw things a little bit off kilter, but the scouting industry has done such a great job of finding the best high school players and signing them, especially hitters. Dylan Cruz, who was the number 2 pick in this year's draft, is a little bit of an outlier, I think, because his senior year of high school was the COVID year and he wasn't scouted the way he normally would have. So he removed himself from the draft and went on to LSU and had a huge college career. That's happening less and less because I think the industry is recognizing exactly what we're talking about. But we're talking about a very select number of high school players who even have to sort of try to quickly make this calculation as to what's best for them in their future.
And that's why when you look at your book, Smart, Wrong, and Lucky, the origin stories of the baseball's unexpected stars tells you there's a lot of roads on how we can get to the big leagues. Let's get to some A's guys. Geloff, I mean, my God, it's just been a start that it's historic. What did you think of him before, and what do you think of him now?
I guess I'll start with the sort of usual caveat that, what he's doing right now is fantastic. It is absolutely phenomenal, especially power-wise. It is a very small sample size. So I don't want people to jump to a conclusion and start, engraving his plaque in Cooperstown.
We already put it there. If you
all right. I mean, that's fine. If you snuck it in there, good for him. I mean, I like Zach a lot. I met him in the fall league. I always liked him. He kind of was one of these guys who was like on the brink of our top 100. He was on it. He was off it. He's on it again now. He doesn't do it the way like the swing. Some scouts would look at the swing and be like, oh, I don't know, that could get exposed. In the minors, he got banged up some, so it was even hard to tell exactly what he was going to be. I think he's going to hit. He's a good athlete. And I think we may look back and realize that we probably undervalued him, and he may be a better big leaguer than he was, thought of as a prospect, especially because he's athletic. You could move him around if you wanted him to. He runs well. It looks like the power is going to play. I just don't want people to get, have too unfair expectations for him based on what he's done this year. But this has exceeded expectations based on sort of where we thought he was.
Well, get ready for this one. All right. You want to talk cart before the horse. Lawrence Butler comes up, 6'3", super athletic, had a great spring. And we're like, when's the last time the A's brought up a guy like this? The name Jose Canseco gets brought up when he was the rookie of the year. But Lawrence Butler, what do you think so far? And what do you think? Well, actually, it's only been a couple games. But
yeah,
what do you think of Lawrence Butler and what he can be? Because obviously he's a very athletic 6'3" guy.
Yeah, he's really interesting to me because I think this is where young and inexperienced is more, because 23 is still young, but it seems like we've been talking about him for a while as a guy, signed out of high school. It took him a little bit. That swing is going to work. I think it's going to work. It's just a question of, is he the kind of guy who is going to tease with that ability and strike out a ton? I think his approach has improved, but this is a guy who's got legitimate 2020 potential. It's just a question of him consistently finding the barrel in order to do that. But it's all in there. And, he's a guy who can play the outfield corners. He can play first base, even though he hasn't done it. You don't necessarily need him to do that. But there are a lot of ingredients there to like. And I think you're right. While that kind of comparison, and I hate major league comparisons in general, but comparing him to someone like Jose Canseco is completely unfair. It is true that it is, to have a guy sort of big, physical, and athletic like that. You haven't seen a lot of that, and there's an excitement that comes with that kind of player automatically.
By the way, Ian Kinsler gets brought up with Geloff all the time around here.
Yeah, and he and Zach loves Ian. I've done a lot of stuff with Team Israel over the years, and one of the selling points when I was talking to Zach in the Arizona Fall League about playing in the World Baseball Classic was, who's going to manage that team. You could pick Ian Kinsler's brain for the time that you're there, and that was a big selling point. And I'm sure he maximized his time with Ian just in terms of how he went about it. And I think there are some, that's not a terrible comparison. But, of course, no one thought Ian Kinsler was going to be Ian Kinsler when he first came up either.
Well, I got to tell you, you're getting old when you start covering kids and you played against their dad. I played against Steve Soderstrom when he was at Fresno State. So all of a sudden his kid is our first-round pick. You're like, wow. So what do you think of Tyler?
It's been interesting. And speaking of old, by the way, Justin Crawford was in the Futures game. I'm going to digress just for a second. His dad was Carl Crawford. I covered Carl Crawford in the Futures game. So I covered his dad as a prospect and then his son as a prospect. So that the fact that he was in the draft was hard enough, Andrew Jones and Justin Crawford. But I think that Tyler Soderstrom the kind of guy you're just going to have to let go, let him hit. It's going to take a little while to adjust. I actually was expecting to dominate in the minors this year a little bit more. The power is very, very real. And maybe even more so than Lawrence Butler. It's going to be a consistency thing. And I think he's going to get there. You're going to have to live with some strikeouts. I know the catching has improved to the point where he's caught almost as much as he's played first base this year, which is encouraging. It'll be interesting to see what happens long term, just in terms of other personnel in the system and things like that. But I do think that the left-handed power is very, very real. As long as you can live with some strikeouts. I don't think he's going to be a 3 true outcome kind of guy, but he may never hit for a huge average. But you might get 35 to 40 homers every year.
Let's end on this, and we truly appreciate your time. If you had to say out of the 30 teams handling your minor league system, now all teams are different because of payrolls and markets and all that kind of stuff. But, we do have 30 different minor league systems. If you had to pick one team that you say this team should be the model, which team would that be?
For the A's or just in general?
Just in general.
Well, because in general, it's hard to look past to say what the Los Angeles Dodgers have done because they win every year and they manage a really good farm system. Not everyone has the financial wherewithal to keep big leaguers. So if I were to pick another team that made more sense for a wider swath, and that's why I was asking specifically maybe about the A's. Or I live in Pittsburgh, so the Pirates. I'd have to, the Pirates are doing well right now.
Let's do then. Let's switch the parameters.
Yeah, so I'd say
like Pirates, Royals.
Yeah.
A's. Right.
So the Pirates are doing well right now, but they had to kind of hit the switch again. I think the Tampa Bay Rays are the team that probably are the sort of standard bearer for not being a large market, not having huge revenue, but competing now seems every year and maintaining a really good farm system. And they do it by drafting well, but also – if you notice, even when they trade for a big leaguer that maybe helps them out down the stretch in a playoff race, they always get some like low-level, complex league, rookie ball kind of guy who ends up being one of the best prospects in baseball. And I always say, like, if the Rays are calling and asking about a guy that you have in your complex league, hang up the phone because that guy ends up being some superstar eventually. But so they find ways, every way that you can bring in minor league talent, they do it, draft internationally and via trades. They just seem to get it right on all those avenues. So that's probably the organization I would point to.
Hey, great stuff. We always appreciate the time. We'll pump the book for you. Be well, and let's talk soon.
Sounds good, Chris. Thanks very much.
Great stuff. Great stuff. Talking about our players, smart, wrong, and lucky, the origin stories of baseball's unexpected stars. It's a lot of ways to get to the big leagues, man. They've made even movies about it. Who's the old teacher, the guy, the left-hander for the Rays?
That'd be Jimmy Morris.
Jim Morris?
Was it Jim Morris? Yeah. Played by Randy.
Not Jim Morrison.
Played by
Randy Quaid? Dennis Quaid.
It's Dennis Quaid.
Dennis Quaid. I mean, this is a guy that pitched, high school baseball coach, started throwing BP. Didn't he have a shoulder problem? And all of a sudden his shoulder felt better and he's throwing it hard. And if his kids won something, he would try out and he tried out. Next thing you know, he's in the big leagues.
I think they had to win the section title or something like that. And they did. And small town in Texas. And then he's pitching for the Rays and he makes his debut at Globe Life Park. What is it? Because it's Field now, I think, or the other way around.
In Texas?
Yeah. What's their name?
Yeah, it's Globe Life.
Well,
one of them's Field, one of them's Park.
I think the old one is Field.
And
the new one's Park. Yeah. I'm just trying to see.
So the old one was Globe. It's still there.
Yeah, it's right across the street. They use it for college baseball and stuff. Globe Life Field is the one they use. Is the new one. So Globe Life Park is the old one.
Yeah. All right. Good stuff.
Yeah. It's a nice
It
ballpark
just goes
too.
to show, like, some people look at Geloff and they go, well, they weren't sure. And now he comes up, and let me tell you something. In professional sports, you will get recognized. No matter how bad the team is, no matter what market you're in, no matter what town, you will get recognized. Because I'm going to tell you, this is the MLB Network notes that we get every day that has everything you need to know. Page 4 is a whole thing about Zach Geloff. Page 4. Because what happens is they give you, like, here's my rundown of today's game and my notes and stuff that I highlight. That's today's game, Cardinals A's. And they do this for every single team. Every game is in here. So they've got news and notes from but Geloff makes, so they have the longest hitting streaks, matchups, then they have the standings. Geloff's on the 4th page when they first start actually bringing in. It's the wild card standings, who's pitching, and it's Geloff. The highlighted stuff is all about Geloff. So everybody in baseball, everybody at MLB Network, everybody in baseball who's getting these notes on the 4th page, he is the first player being talked about. Proves my point. No one's talking about yesterday's game, and nobody cares. Nobody cares. I was shocked how many calls we got in the postgame yesterday. Why?
I was too.
Because my phone, I totally forgot. Like, I'm in baseball season, right? I don't work in the NFL anymore, so I don't think about it. My phone buzzes, kickoff, Niners, Raiders, and my first thought, what do you think my first thought was?
About Niners, Raiders?
Yeah.
Jimmy G?
You're a moron. My first thought was, oh my God, no one's going to be listening to the postgame show. Nobody's going to call. I'm going to be talking to myself for an hour.
You said that on the postgame show too.
Yeah, I said it. Well, yeah, there's been people who have on social media, he never takes calls. Well, there's certain nights some people don't call. Trust me, I love taking phone calls. I created the show. I made this show different to make it a full-on call-in show. So sometimes if I'm just talking for 20 minutes, it's not because I want to just hear myself. I've already talked all day long. So I thought it was going to be one of those days. Little did I know fans were going to pour out. And they took my stance. They understood where I was going. Like, I rant and rave so many nights after A's games when the team loses. That's why I went the other way. I took the different road. I'm going like, what? Now everybody around me is going to be pissed? You're now pissed in mid-August. I've been pissed for months, and now you're angry? Screw you. Don't. You know what that's called? Fake outrage. You should have been outraged in the first couple months, and now you're going to wait till mid-August, and now you're disappointed? 85 losses in, and you're disappointed? Stop it. The point of my show yesterday was this. Everybody in baseball today is going to get these notes, and the first player talked about in all of the notes is not Shohei Ohtani. It's not Wander Franco and his scandal. It's not going to be about all these high-paid teams that are crapping the bed. It's not going to be about the Braves. Zach Geloff is the first guy in the notes. I want to show you guys that. The highlighted is Geloff. That's the number one thing in MLB Network's notes today is Zach Geloff. He is the story right now. Getting us out of the darkness and into the light is the story right now. Who is going to be here years from now? That is the story right now. It's not, you want to hold on to older players, go right ahead. I'm not going to tell you how to be a fan. You can be a fan and you can root and you can love it. You can hate it. You can do however you want to experience it. Go right ahead. I'm just telling you, we talk about and we worry about people who really for the long term, and this is going to be very harsh, but for the long term process of this organization, we worry about guys who are irrelevant. History, we are not going to be here 3, 4, 5 years from now looking back on some of the players who are on this team. We may use them for immaculate grid.
Fair.
But we're not gonna be like, oh, remember, this is gonna go down as one of the worst, if not the worst seasons in A's history. We are not going to reference this year other than guys like Zach Geloff, Tyler Soderstrom, hopefully Ruiz, hopefully Blade. Why do I say? Remember, I don't think they're young. What's Ruiz, 25?
24. I think he turns 25 this year, though.
Yeah, he's turning 25. This dude, old Esty Ruiz, has played in a boatload of professional games. Go look at his minor leagues. He has played in a lot of games. He is not a kid.
Ruiz turns 25 and actually turns 25 in February. So next year.
Okay, before it starts next year, he's 25. I mean, is that young? Blade's already 25, right?
Yep.
These guys are
Actually,
not that young.
I think Blade, he might have just turned 26. Let me double check. Blade is 20. He'll be 26 in November.
26. Seth Brown is 31 years old.
32.
He could be 32 in what year? What? November?
Hold on. Brown will be 32 in July of now. He just turned 31.
Okay, so next season he's 32. I'm telling you, focus. We need to focus. I'll still rant and rave after games. That's my job. Talk about what's going on day to day with the games. I just yesterday was not going to rant and rave because now everybody else is. Now they've like, you know, when you've been throwing the party and it's been a great party, and then all of a sudden all these people want to come to the party and you're like, no, stop, get out. Fake outrage. Geloff, though, I thought this was from one of our interns. Which one was this?
It was Marcus.
Marcus put out there the last two 23-year-olds, 8 home runs, 13 RBIs, 6 stolen bases in a 25-game span. Of course, Geloff. Barry Bonds, 1987.
Young Barry. Before Super Barry.
Skinny Barry. Geloff, first player since 1900 with at least 8 home runs and 6 stolen bases in the first 25 career games. That just basically means they have no clue who did it before 1900. Or they'd have to really go back and research it.
I think you can look that up, and they probably wanted to do modern era.
Yeah, because it's like this guy with the Boston Crabs, or they always have these funky names.
Yeah.
Think about that. No player since 1900 has done this. He's the 4th A's rookie, 2 home runs, 4 hits in a game since the club moved to Oakland in 68. McGuire, Brocious, and Troy Neal. Wow.
He has 8 home runs. He's 6 away from tying Scott Spezio's record for A's rookie second baseman of 14.
Could easily do that.
Could easily do it.
Now, to be fair, we have said this. Home runs and strikeouts aren't as big of a deal as they used to be because everybody hits them.
And everybody strikes out.
Everybody strikes out. Everybody hits home runs. I did a thing yesterday. I did a little research, and I ended up getting rid of my research today. I had to restart my computer. But in the 3rd inning yesterday, I did a thing about home runs because they did a article on CBSSports.com about how the Braves could pass the Bomba Squad.
Ooh.
2019, your Minnesota Twins.
307.
They hit 3.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were saying research.
You're trying to, what are you married? And you're trying to finish my sentence. The Bomba Squad, everybody. So basically the record for most home runs in a season, and then all the teams below it are all 2019. The A's, we hit 257 that year.
Yeah.
The top 22 years of hitting home runs for teams, basically all modern day teams, and a lot of them are from the last couple of years. So everybody's hitting home runs. By the way, the top 22 years for teams hitting home runs, you didn't hear this. Alex Jensen, I did it for Alex. He didn't get it. So if you said teams have hit the most home runs in a single season, we can't do top 20 because there's teams that are tied. So it's the top 22. What do they all have in common?
None of them won the World Series.
None of them have ever won the World Series.
Alex didn't know that?
Nope.
See, this isn't Stockton playing Lake Elsinore.
And then Vince, of course, is going to disagree with anything. Oh, yeah, well, I'll call you guys in November when the break. Okay, we'll see. We'll see.
How's Strider do yesterday, by the way?
The last team, I'm going to kind of guess this. This is a guesstimation. The last team to lead the league in home runs and win the World Series, I believe, is the 2009 Yankees. Which 2009 is a long time ago.
We can. Let's see. League leaders, MLB. New team. Just give me a second. I'll get it.
This is really great programming. You're going down a rabbit hole, and we now all have to wait for your research skills.
For the internet, either one. Yankees did lead. 244 looks like.
So I'm pretty sure the Yankees are the last team to lead the league in dingers and win the World Series.
Well, it wasn't any of the Giants teams, so you can take those off.
I used the Giants in my third inning thing. I'm like, they didn't hit any home runs, and they won 3 World Series. So you can't say. So back to Geloff. Home runs are great, but everybody's hitting home runs. The thing that makes players great players is how they affect the game day in and day out. We use statistics all the time. By the way, when's our next guest?
3:30.
Okay.
Chip Carey.
We use statistics all the time, right? And that's great. But statistics are just numbers that have been gathered over time, right? That's not how our game is actually played. Our game is a game that's played. It's 162 different days. You play 162 games. So Brent Rooker is a great example. Brent Rooker was on fire to start the year. He was incredible. Brent Rooker in this month is hitting what? 130 something?
Yeah, I haven't done the Brent Rooker watch lately, but
Brent Rooker, are you gonna get?
I could try to get it.
Just go to MLB.com, the Brent Rooker MLB.com. Go to MLB.com. It's a fast way to do it.
I can do it right here. I'm already on the game log.
Give me the month.
Month of August.
For the month of August, he's hitting 130 what?
Month of August, Brent Rooker is hitting. It's loading. Still loading. He is hitting 129.
Excuse me. I'm sorry. Brent Rooker's hitting 129 in August.
2 of those 4 hits are home runs.
He's hitting 129 in August. But people are going to sit here and they're going to say, they're going to take the average of the entire year. And they're going to say, Brent Rooker, well, in the end, he's got 19 home runs. He's got a 786 OPS. So you'll look at that and go, that's not that bad, even though it's 237. Folks, Brent Rooker's hitting 129 this month. He's not helping you on a day-to-day basis. That's my whole point about these numbers, right? We can give number, this guy. How do you help me every day? That's what made Ricky Henderson so great. Yes, he has over 100 WAR. Yes, he's got the most stolen bases. But Ricky touched home plate more than anybody else on a consistent basis. Ricky affected the game every day. He was walking. He was stealing bases. He was scoring runs. He was a good outfielder. There's all these different ways Ricky Henderson affected the game. Take a guy like Pete Rose. You know how many hits Pete Rose had? You know how many runs Pete Rose scored? Pete Rose's numbers are amazing. Why? Because he was always doing something. That's the point. These games are all individual games. We lump all these guys' stats in and we go, hey, look how great the player is. I get that, but in the end, what's important is winning games on a daily basis. How do you affect the game every day? In basketball, we say, how do you affect the stat sheet? How do you fill up the stat sheet? What are your points? What are your rebounds? What are your assists? All these different things that they look at. That if you looked at like a basketball, Zach Geloff fills up the stat sheet. He's helping the A's win. Scratch that. When they do win. But he's going to help the A's win because he does a lot of different things well. He's good. If I went all cliche, he's a baseball player.
Not professional, just a baseball player.
When you say a guy's a baseball player, what you're really saying is you just don't know how to articulate it. What you're really saying is This guy plays the entire game, right? When you see a guy in basketball who can shoot, he can pass, he can rebound, he can defend, he can do it all, right? He affects the entire game. Well, that's kind of what Zach Geloff can do. And obviously, we're more of an individual sport, but Zach Geloff has the ability to help you with his bat, his legs. We're seeing that he can play defense. He's super athletic. That's special. And to listen to Jonathan Mayo go, well, we didn't see this. And we don't know how good Zach Geloff is going to be. But I can only go off what he's done so far. And what he's done so far is proven he can play at this level. And he's competent. He can play at this level. Like, legitly, you could take Zach Geloff and put him on any team, and he can play. I don't know who I can say that about on our team. Zach Geloff right now, you want to dump him in the Bronx, you want to dump him in Kansas City, South Florida, Texas, Pacific Northwest. You could dump Zach Geloff on any team, and he could play.
Well, Yankees could definitely use his bat.
If the Yankees didn't have a second baseman, and you said, would you take Zach Geloff as a second baseman from what you've seen? They go, hell yes, I'd take him.
This was in our game notes from Mike Selleck. Geloff is one of just 4 players in the majors with eight or more homers and 6 or more stolen bases. Can you guess any of the other 3?
That right now?
Yeah.
That has 8 home runs and 6 stolen bases?
8 or more and 6 or more steals.
Players or second baseman?
Players.
You mean like Acuna?
Yeah, well, he doesn't have Acuna on here, so
I think Acuna has more home runs.
He is, yeah.
Oh boy, look at the flustered look. Look at the flustered look.
I'm pulling. I'm just pulling because I didn't.
Oh no, Cody. Cody doesn't like to be wrong. I just want to let people know Cody does not like to be wrong.
I know why, because I missed the first part of it in the last month since his debut.
Oh,
only 4 players.
Okay. I was about to say Acuna's got 50-something bags, and
in the last one since his debut, he's just one of 4 players in the majors with 8 or more homers and 6 or more steals. Can you name any one? It's actually not Acuna. The list would be Shohei Ohtani, Kyle Tucker of the Astros, and your guy Cody Bellinger.
My Cubs.
Bellinger, I saw going yesterday. Bellinger's in 330.
My Cubs. Yeah. I'm on team Go Cubs. Isn't that their thing? Go Cubs go.
Yeah.
I'm on team Cub. And the only reason why I'm on team Cubs is that they said, what the hell, let's go with it. Even though Stroman was terrible he's hurt now, hip? But Stroman was terrible in July. But they're like, oh, you're going to trade Stroman. I'm team Cubs.
They're being carried by a guy.
They're national. We picked nationally. One year we picked the Mets, and we have the Phillies. One of us picked the Phillies last year.
It was not me.
Oh, that's right. It wouldn't be. Maybe it was me. I'm team Cubs this year. I'm going Cubs.
I pick the same National League team every year, and no, it's not the Pirates because they're never in it. I always pick Milwaukee, and I'm sticking with Milwaukee.
It's refreshing when someone says, you know what, we're going to stick this thing out. Let's play it out. It makes for a great summer, right? You don't think they're having a great summer in Chicago right now?
Yeah, actually, your team was the Diamondbacks.
That was my preseason.
Because that's not summer looking
at the trading deadline. I adopted. I said I adopted.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
I brought them in. But yeah, I'm happy for the Cubs. Right? That's that story. Are they a perfect team? No. I mean, this is part of the entertainment business, right? We want to be entertained. It's like with our ball club. I want to be entertained. Geloff is entertaining me. Lawrence Butler. Now, Jonathan Mayo almost had a heart attack when I mentioned Jose Canseco. but Lawrence Butler, are you telling me you don't did that ball he ripped? And by the way, I Soderstrom's base running. I had a question about it on that double. And then yesterday, boy, they have I wish every team had what the Nationals have. They had the eye in the sky, right? We started getting the replays from up top. Soderstrom was on first base. Where are we here? Soderstrom hits the double. Blade hits the base hit into right field. So you're a runner on second base. Now, see, this is the stuff we don't see. And this is why play-by-play guys, I questioned Soderstrom the day before. Play-by-play guys follow the ball. This was the eye in the sky. Do you know when you're on second base and you're leading off, left-handed hitter at the plate, and the left-handed hitter hits a ground ball to the right side, what do you do?
Go to third.
You sure about that?
I mean, you would think that would be the move.
Are you 100? I just want to make sure, because I've been pointing out a lot of stuff, and everybody went, well, are you sure?
I'm going to go with my eye test, yes.
Do you remember when Jordan Diaz was on second base and the ground ball to his right? And I was like, and then it was defended after in the postgame show. It was ridiculous. And then everybody came on and said, oh, yeah, that was a big blunder. They watched film on it after.
Oh, the ball that hit the short, right? It was a shorter third.
It was to his right. He's
Yeah.
leading off second base. He's trying to put on his handbag, his hand guard, and the ground ball's to his right. He kind of takes off, and then he's at. It's like, dude, you freeze on a ground ball to your right. You don't. So we're all going to agree you're a runner on second. Left-handed hitter, when the ball is being released, you take a couple hops closer to third. Ball's hit to the right. What do? You go to third. Eye in the sky showed us, and you can go back. I tape the game. I tape every game. I'll show you. It's not what Tyler Soderstrom did. Tyler Soderstrom froze and went back, movement to second. Now, what does that do? That takes all your momentum, even that jerk back towards the second. Ball now is a base hit in between first and second. Your momentum took you back to second. So now I got to reverse my momentum, and now I run to third. By the time I run to third, I'm just rounding third, and the ball's in the outfield. So people would defend, he's young. No. There's no such thing. You're on second base, ball's hit to the right side, you immediately beeline to third. You should be rounding third base, scoring, if not having to be held up. You shouldn't just be trotting into third and a base hit to right field. That means he didn't read it. So that questions the day before when Butler hits the ball off the wall, why is he just rounding into third? That ball was beelined off the wall. Soon as Butler hits it, you don't have to be fast to be a good base runner. How about the guy that they just selected into the Baseball Hall of Fame? Scott Rowland was not fast. He was a big man, but he was smart, took great reads, and he's known as a good base runner.
What's the metric they use now? Base running runs or whatever. Like Arizona's really good at it. I think Baltimore's really good at it. Teams that are competitive.
I mean, Lawrence Butler, it's the ball off the wall, and you're just the crack of the bat. You're beelining. Ball's hitting the wall. You should be rounding second. Now the ball's coming back. It's in between the outfielders. They're both going to the ball. You should be rounding second, halfway to third. By the time you're starting to come around third, they're picking the ball up and they're throwing home. You should be rounding third. Worst case scenario, Eric is holding him up. No, he was just trotting into third as they're getting the ball. That's like he's not reading it. I mean, I'm not here to be worried really about Tyler's base running all that much right now, but that's these little things add up in games, right? You notice things.
That extra run could have helped out yesterday.
All these extra runs, all these little runs that the A's screw up with, it affects them. But Tyler is somebody, and LB may be that guy. I mean, Butler may be that guy. And tonight, I love it. Center field. Lawrence Butler, you're playing center field. Yesterday, playing center field. Let's see it. This is what August is, right? You got August and you got September. Let him play. Please, Jordan Diaz at third.
Yes.
Jordan Diaz, you're playing third. Is he Brooks Robinson? No. But you know what? Let him play. Let's see. Who's playing short tonight?
Nick Allen.
Okay. It's tough that he booted that ball, but, got to learn from it.
Still one of the better defenders in baseball when it comes to defensive run saves or shortstops, I'm pretty sure.
I mean, that's why I wish Noda was back. So you'd have this infield of Diaz, Allen, Geloff, and Noda. We already know what's Noda defensive run saved.
Nick Allen is a positive player. He's in the top, and he's in the middle in baseball. Where Noda,
Yeah,
Noda is A's because he's not coming up on the all-team leaderboard. The best first baseman defensive run saves wise is somehow it's Carlos Santana and then Matt Olson. First base, Ryan Noda is actually just 0. So he's not hurting you or helping you. He's just right there.
I like Noda at first. That's why I'd like to see all these guys together. I'd like to see them all play together. All right. Something before we get to Chip Carey of the St. Louis Cardinals. I found, and we talked to Dan O'Dowd about this. And what was that Friday?
It was Friday, yes.
We talked to Dan O'Dowd about this. One of the biggest sports stories, and it has been the biggest sports story, has been Shohei Ohtani. Like, that has dominated all of sports. Ohtani is now a baseball player that's being talked about by everybody, right? Most baseball players aren't talked about, especially these cable sports, screaming debate shows. Shohei Ohtani's showing up on those shows.
I would have traded all my draft picks for him.
So if you're showing up on those shows, that means their producers are saying this is one of the top stories in sports, because they only debate what they think are the top. It's LeBron, it's Tom Brady, it's the Cowboys, what they've done for all these years, right? So if he's ending up on those shows, he's pulled himself from his latest start as a pitcher. There have been issues with cramping in his legs and his hands. I don't know if it's hands. It's at least one hand. I'm assuming it's right. And it makes you just start to think about the investment that everybody's talking about, how everybody in our business is acting like this is a no-brainer. This is the greatest signing. This is going to be. And some of us have been a little reserved, not as hot on it. He has the greatest skill set we've ever seen. There's no question. But there is, and I like our guy Steve Sparks from the Astros, former knuckleballer, now broadcaster for the Houston Astros, who says it's got to be the right team for it to be a really, really good fit. And you're now starting to see Shohei in his prime. How old is he? 28, 29?
I think he might, if he's not 29 yet, he will be. I think so.
This is the best as a
29.
As a man. This is his prime. You are getting Shohei Ohtani in his physical peak. What are you, 33? 34.
35 soon, actually.
I hate when people go, I'm in better shape now that I'm older. Well, that's just because you were a slob then. I will never get back to the shape I was in my late 20s.
I think I'm actually healthier now.
You're probably healthier now. That's just because you did take care of yourself.
My weight's always been the same. The weight's never been my problem. It's just the way
You're physically, doctors will tell you, you're physically at your prime in your late 20s.
Oh, yeah.
You're stronger than you've ever been before. It's the strongest you're going to be. Now, I could take PEDs and maybe get back to somewhat what I used to be. And I might, no, I'm not going to say that. Can you imagine someday you tune into the show and I'm just ripped? It's just veins popping out.
You want full Mike Bibby?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, what's he on? Barry Bonds, I remember, he just this offseason really lifted. The offseason's 3.5, 4 months. How big do you think you can how much do you really think you can change your body just naturally? Going to the gym and change your body in 4 months to where your head gets bigger. I've never seen the machine at the gym that says your head gets bigger if you do this. Anyway, he's in his physical prime, right?
Back to Shohei.
Get the car back on the track. Shohei Ohtani's in his physical prime, and he's showing you major fatigue right now. And it's understandable, and it's obvious that I don't know if his body can take what everybody thinks he is going to be with this next mega contract. His value is a guy that can be a starter and an everyday player, but not an everyday player in the field, a DH and a pitcher. And there's this belief that he's going to be this $500 million everything guy. And the Angels are trying to ride it, and they're riding it hard right now. Yeah, because that's the point of having him. You got no shot if you're the Angels if you're trying to load management with him. What shot do you have?
Well, like 6.5 out of the wild card.
They are 6.5.
Under 500.
You got no shot. So that's the whole point. It's like, okay, now he's going to be a $500 million guy. Let's just say he gets $500 million, right? What are the expectations going to be?
Well, you think realistically people are going to say think 30 homers and 30 starts? Which
but beyond that, you're going to expect him to play a lot.
Yeah. You're expecting him to take the mound every start and on the field every game.
And you'll have a honeymoon period where, it's all about the play. They'll say it's all about the playoffs until you don't win the championship. Everybody is all about load management and playoffs until you don't win the World Series. And then people go, well, you gave him all this time off. You didn't win the World Series. It's going to be like, I do think there's still a chance he stays in Anaheim because he's kind of protected, insulated. They got the money. They'll spend it.
He's comfortable.
Very comfortable. Well, I mean, is it a hard life? I don't know. Does he live in Newport? Does he live in Huntington, Dana Point? It's not a hard life down there in Orange County.
No, and everything I've heard from Buster's podcast and just, things I've read is they don't ask him to do a lot. He doesn't do a lot of sponsorship stuff. He doesn't talk to the media. He talks to me like once a week.
We spend $500 million on you in free agent.
You're talking to the media multiple times a day.
Grab that pen, my friend. You're signing autographs all day long, and we're selling this. I need my ROI, return on investment. But I find it, and Dan O'Dowd backed us on Friday, that as a GM, it would concern you. Like what you're seeing now in August, I can't make the start. Well, how is that going to play? Probably in LA, not a big deal because it's LA. But if you were like, let's say, New York, Boston, and you're fighting for your playoff life, and all of a sudden the guy you're spending 50+ million on goes, I'm tired. How's that going to play?
Well, knowing how the media operates there, he wouldn't survive. Someone wouldn't survive that. You have to get in front of it. So, yeah, it would be a terrible situation. And I don't think it gets that far. Well, I don't think he would go to the East Coast. Mainly, I don't think he wants to deal with that media. I mean, let's be real. But, yeah, I mean, he'd have to get in front of that and explain why. And then it's going to be every single time he misses a start, they're going to come down his road.
Come down his road hard. And this is his physical prime, right? Because if you're talking a 10-year deal, you're now, what'd you say his birthday is?
He'll be 20. He'll be 30 on July 5th of next year.
30. You sign a 10-year deal. You think he's doing this when he's 40? You think he's doing this when he's 35?
I'm with you, and I think Dan O'Dowd said it too. I think the best role for him, we talked about this before, is have him close out games. We saw it in the World Baseball Classic. I think if you want him to pitch because he throws hard, you can protect him and he can be efficient. One inning, come in, close the game, and he can still hit 4 times a game. And
you can manage when he's going to, because he's going to come in the high leverage situation.
Yeah.
And he learns how to, unlike what we're doing with pitchers in the minors who don't get to throw, we'll teach him how to be a reliever. Where, trust me, when you're a reliever, you get up 8-10 pitches, you're ready to rock. All right, Shohei, 8-10 pitches, let's go.
I'd actually like to see that. I'd like to see him come in, hit a go-ahead home run in the 8th, and just come out and close the game out in the 9th or something like that for the Angels or Dodgers or wherever he goes. Because I think that could be the ultimate role for him. So you can sustain his health and keep him on the field for you. Because he's not pitching, he'll miss his next start. But I read tonight, this is the first time he's going to face Max Scherzer. Like, that's awesome. Like, what if he just didn't play? And then you're missing out on these things. But yeah, I think him as a closer could be the thing that you do for a now. Does that justify $500 million?
That's the other thing, right? It's like, what do we? I can't wait for the winter meetings. It's going to, because I unless somebody comes right in and blows him away, I have a feeling like what we have seen now, what we saw with Harper, what we saw with Machado, what we're seeing with these contracts go past the winter meetings. Judge went past the winter meetings. I think the winter meetings is going to be like, get a suite and bring everybody up to the suite with your presentation. And you know what? I'd do that. If I was Shohei Ohtani, I would have a kick-ass suite, and I would make everybody come up and present to me. I would want to see, right? Like when you buy a house, you don't buy the first, you may buy the first house you see, or you go and you check all these different houses to see which one you like. Well, it's kind of like house hunting, your organization, but you are bringing the houses to you. They got to come to you. They want your services. Let everybody put their presentation out there.
I think we'll see a real like free agency tour, because how anticlimactic will be if we're in Nashville for the winter meetings in December and it's like, hey, we're in the second day and it's like, hey, breaking, Jeff Passan or whoever, Shohei Ohtani agrees to return to Anaheim on an 8-year, $409, and it's like, oh man. Yeah. So we get to watch him and Trout not make the playoffs again. Like that's just be so anticlimactic.
All right, Chip Caray from the St. Louis Cardinals. It just still kind of sounds weird.
Very.
Will join us next right here on A's Cast Live. This is Chris Townsend and Commander Cody for Link Soul. You need to redo your wardrobe, especially for summer. They got new colors, new styles. Summer is here. The polos, unbelievable. The shorts, you name it, we got our new order.
My wife is the happiest one out of all of us because I look better, thanks to Link Soul.
And they've got unbelievable deals right now for the summer. So what are you waiting for? Shirts, polos, shorts, you name it. You go to linksoul.com. That's linksoul.com.
Innovation is at the core of Cal State East Bay, like at our Green Biome Institute, where faculty and students preserve genetic information from California's endangered plants, or how we open doors for local entrepreneurs at our Small Business Development Center. From educators to nurses to STEM professionals, Cal State East Bay has real impact throughout the region's neighborhoods, boardrooms, and the entire economy. Be part of the innovation. Connect with Cal State East Bay at csueastbay.edu/impact.
This is the way to see your favorite Star Wars characters take flight. Get your tickets for a one-of-a-kind Star Wars-themed drone show presented by Chevron Texaco Rewards on Saturday, August 19th. May the Force be with you as you head out to the ballpark for this matchup against the Baltimore Orioles, followed by a dazzling post-game light show in a galaxy not so far away. You won't want to miss this. Get your tickets today at athletics.com/drone shows. That's athletics.com/drone shows.
Unbeatable mileage from Chevron with Techron unlocks all kinds of unbeatable trips, like to family dinner the next town over, or to a family wedding the next town over, or even to a family reunion over the river and through the woods at Grandma's house. Any drive is worth it to see Grandma, especially when you can stop along the way for unbeatable cleaning power from Chevron with Techron. Your engine will be thanking you for making the trip. Download the Chevron app now and find unbeatable mileage near you.
This is Chris Townsend, and if you're looking for a great place to eat and watch games, go see my friends at the Chicken Pie Shop at Walnut Creek. The Chicken Pie Shop is one of the hottest restaurants in Walnut Creek. You're not going to find a better menu, and come try their world-famous chicken pie that has been served in Southern California for 86 years. Spacious indoor and outdoor dining, perfect for your next private party or corporate event. Don't forget free parking. For more information, go to chickenpieshopwc.com. That's chickenpieshopwc.com.
Hey, Billy, this deck is great for getting everyone together.
Thanks. We're really enjoying the outdoor space, especially on a day like today.
What's the material?
Humboldt Redwood from Ashby Lumber. They gave us a great deal, provided us with a quick quote, and we couldn't be happier. We even found a great contractor through their online contractor directory.
Don't miss a day outdoors. Visit Ashby Lumber in Berkeley or Concord to see our stock of naturally strong, naturally beautiful Humboldt Redwood. Find out more at ashbylumber.com for all your building needs. Ashby Lumber.
Summertime is golf time in the Bay Area, and that means it's time to enjoy the beautiful vistas, 27 holes of championship golf, and all the amenities that Cinnabar Hills Golf Club has to offer. Cinnabar Hills gives you a variety on the course and in their amazing grill. They're ready to give you an incredible experience for any family, business, or social gathering. Nestled in the quiet hills of San Jose, summertime fun awaits you at Cinnabar Hills Golf Club. Learn more at cinnabarhills.com. That's cinnabarhills.com.
Streaming from the A's Road studio, A's Cast Live continues with Chris Townsend.
That's right. We got two historic franchises coming up here, the Oakland Athletics and the St. Louis Cardinals coming your way here on A's Cast. And we want to check in with Chip Caray, one of the best broadcasters that we have in the business. And before we get into the Cardinals, big question for you, because I know it means a lot. Are we going to be looking at a three-peat with your Georgia Bulldogs?
Of course.
For sure? Is this a for sure? Another SEC championship?
Yeah, well, they've got a really easy schedule this year with the exception of going to Tennessee, so that's certainly going to help. If they can get healthy, get a new quarterback in there, and avoid some speeding tickets, I think they've got a good chance to three-peat in the SEC.
And we don't even, I mean, it's you got to get like a guide out to figure out who's in the Big Ten and the SEC now, Texas and Oklahoma now. I mean, it's just crazy.
Yeah, I long for the more innocent days where you knew who was in which conference. And look, if the SEC is going to add guys, I don't know if they'll add any more with Oklahoma and Texas joining, but I say bring Florida State and Clemson in and make it an even more super conference. That'd be a heck of a lot of fun.
You know, I think about your career and all the different places, whether it's Chicago, whether it's Atlanta, it's St. Louis, I mean, super stations that you've been on, where we are in the broadcasting business, right? Streaming's becoming so big. Just how strange, you know, from your grandfather to your father, and now your sons, just how crazy is this whole world now of how we deliver baseball, because it's changed so much.
Yeah, I don't think the delivery is any different. I think it's how people are able to consume it that's so different. And the fact that it's so fractionalized right now tells you that the change that's taking place is obviously stark. It's real. It's difficult. It's hard to navigate through for the broadcasters, the broadcast entities, and Major League Baseball itself. What's frustrating for me is, I guess now as an older person, that baseball seemingly is going out of its way to make it more and more difficult for people to consume their product than easier. And I think that's a big mistake. I know we've got blackout rules and all that kind of stuff, but with the plethora of streaming services that are carrying games, many people don't consume baseball that way. There is a small number who do, but the fact that there isn't the option for people who want to watch a game, and I'll use Apple TV and Peacock as an example, the fans who pay their money every month to watch their favorite team, and when those games are on those other streaming services, the fans are blacked out if they don't pay their $10 a month, I think is a shame. I wish there was a way that everything could work in harmony and work in concert with each other. But, you know, I guess baseball needs those $3 million per team for one of those streaming services.
How's the transition to St. Louis been for you?
It's been great. Seamless. Really enjoyed it. You know, again, I made it clear in Atlanta that I would love to stay. It just got harder and harder to keep trying to do that. When the St. Louis opportunity popped up for me, it was a dream come true. I grew up here, knew the culture to a certain degree, and still have family who lives here. So from that standpoint, going from a storied franchise in Atlanta to the one here in St. Louis has been great. Unfortunately, the team hasn't played as well as we thought that they would going into spring training, which happens, and it's not the new guy's fault. But, you know, even when I came here as a visiting broadcaster, whether it was with the Braves or with the Cubs, I'd walk into that broadcast facility and I'd see pictures of Jack Buck and Jay Randolph and Mike Shannon and my grandfather. And it always felt like it was kind of a homecoming, so to speak, even though I was only here for 3 days at a time. So from that standpoint, that's been comfortable. The organization and Valley Midwest have gone out of their way to make me and my family feel a part of it. And so far, I think the response has been very good from the fans. So all in all, I couldn't be more proud, but I also couldn't be more humbled to have been welcomed so warmly.
Yeah, that's awesome because, you know, as a kid growing up, I think your grandfather, you know, early cable days for some of us who are old enough to remember, WGN was one of the first stations that we were able to get on cable. You know, we didn't know about your grandfather in St. Louis, but obviously he had a great career in St. Louis. It's just really cool for you to go back, right, as the grandson. Yeah. I mean, that's historic stuff.
Yeah, well, I was born here. My dad was born here. My grandfather was born here. So we're all native St. Louisans. And the saying is you can leave, but St. Louis never leaves you. Harry started here in 1945 with the Cardinals and went to the end of the 69 season, went to Oakland for a year, as you know, and then made his way to the White Sox with Bill Veeck. On Chicago South Side, then to the Cubs, where he worked until he passed away. I mean, there's so many things that I've always dreamed of coming full circle as a broadcaster and as a family person. One of those would be to work here. One of those would be to sort of close the circle for Harry in our hometown. Hopefully, this will be the last stop for me, and who knows, maybe I'll be able to pave the way for my twins, who you mentioned earlier in the show. But more than that, it's helped close some family loops and things that I didn't know about Harry personally. And that was the great tragedy of me not getting to work with him in Chicago. There were things I would have loved to have known. What was my dad like as a kid? What was my aunt like as a kid? What kind of an athlete was dad in high school? Where was your favorite place to go hang out after a game? All those things were lost to time, obviously. And through the friends that are still here and remain and remember him, I'm hearing more and more of those stories, which keeps him alive, which is nice.
You think about St. Louis, truly one of the great sports cities in our country. You think about the support. I always try and tell our fans, it's hard to explain how big the Cardinals are because, back in the day, everybody's listening to radio, and radio went, Cardinal baseball went all the way into Texas. It's the entire Midwest. So they own the Midwest, basically. It's a great franchise, great fan base. This year, just talk about how hard it is for their fans because they're not used to this.
That's the key word and the key phrase. They're not used to it. I think the word that I would describe is shock. And to put it in perspective, the Cardinals have finished last in their division once in the last 100 years.
What?
Okay, so they're in last place in the National League Central. They have not been able to sustain much of anything. They just didn't have enough pitching. That was a big problem at the start of the year, and their offense was not very good. And Arenado has said he wasn't very good, and by his standards, he wasn't. But I think the perspective I've tried to apply to people here, again, the beauty of coming in as an outsider is what happens in St. Louis and what has happened here for the last 15, 16 years is an outlier. They finished above 500 15 straight years. And in most places, you have 3 or 4 years where you're above 500, 3 or 4 years where you're way below, and then 3 or 4 where you hope to, be 2 over or 3 over and have a chance to get into postseason play. So this really was culture shock for them, but I think it's a great wake-up call for them in this regard. Every now and then, you got to take a step back and rebuild and retool. And I think the ownership and management understands that the bets that they placed on starting pitching were not wise ones. The emphasis on pitching to contact in a world where the shift is no longer outlawed, in a world where swing and miss and high velo with command is really, really critically important. Those are all things the Cardinals did not have much of this year, and they don't really have that right now. So they're going to give guys auditions down the stretch. They'll have the auditions in this series against the A's, and they'll find out what they have so that they can go into off-season planning with an idea of what they've got to go get. But as John Mozeliak showed you at the trade deadline, it's pitching, pitching, and pitching. They score enough runs. They got to find a way to pitch so they don't have to win every game 2 or 3 times, which has been the big problem this year.
Yeah, looking at my notes going into this game, I was just kind of shocked. Paul Goldschmidt, kind of from an OPS standpoint, how much he has fallen off, especially in August, because we know this guy is going to have a chance to have a plaque in Cooperstown someday. What's been going on with him?
He's had trouble with the fastball, but he's played virtually every inning of every game. I mean, the thing about the Cardinals is this. You've got 2 Hall of Fame guys in the corners in Arenado and Goldschmidt. Brendan Donovan, who just had elbow surgery, is another real gamer on this team. All 3 of those guys were working together at the trade deadline to help the Cardinals get some momentum to maybe find a way somehow to get on a roll where they wouldn't sell off at the deadline. Brendan Donovan has a partially torn ligament in his elbow. He had to have surgery. He said it didn't affect him to hit. He said, I'm not getting any kind of surgery until after the deadline, until we know what we're doing or not doing. He played hurt. Because all he could do is DH, that meant Arenado and Goldschmidt, who could rest up and re-energize by being the DH, couldn't do that. They played virtually every day at first and third. And if you don't know St. Louis, it's 104 degrees here every day in the summer. And those guys aren't spring chickens anymore. So the point of that is, have the numbers for Goldschmidt suffered a bit? Yeah, but it's because he's been in the lineup and he's trying to gut and will his way through and show these young guys how to play through some adversity and how to play through the aches and pains. He hasn't felt good since opening day. No player does. But to his credit, a guy that's going to end up, as we said, in Cooperstown and the reigning MVP, he's acted like that behind the scenes as well as between the white lines.
It's so interesting. You mentioned the DH, and we talk a lot about Shohei Ohtani being a full DH. We got used to way back in the day, if you talk about like Reggie Jackson and Paul Molitor and George Brett and Dave Winfield, you talked about players when their careers were at the end and they couldn't play in the field anymore, but they could still swing it. Harold Baines, like these guys, you still had them as a full-time DH. Now we utilize the DH in so many different ways. Just how tough is it for a team just to say you're the DH, you're the guy playing every day? Because as you said, it doesn't allow other guys to get off their feet and still get 4 at bats.
Well, it depends on the makeup of your team. I'll use the team that I just came from. They've got 4 guys who have played every game in Atlanta: Olsen, Albies, Austin Riley, and Acuna. They've played all 112 games for Atlanta. Brian Snitker can write those 4 guys in because they are young enough and they want to play every single day. And that's not to insinuate that our guys don't. I think what's happened in the National League is they've adjusted to the DH. It's now become a load management feature for the clubs. Guys that are used to playing every day or would have to take a full day off say, well, I feel good enough to hit, but I just need to get off my feet for a day. It's a really wonderful thing. And to your point about prolonging careers, it's certainly done that as well. The problem we've had in St. Louis is because of injury and because of lineup and roster construction, it's really been difficult to put together your ideal lineup depending on how hot a guy is or not on a daily basis. So the DH has been great, but we've got guys that we could probably have 3 of them at one point. And of course, the roster only allows you to use 1 at a time.
Jordan Walker could be a special player. A lot of talk about him and how up and down at times. Just give us a scouting report, and what do you think of him?
Well, I think he's great. He's a great kid. He's got a chance to be a terrific player. He's learning on the fly. Last year, he was playing third base in the minor leagues. The Cardinals converted him to the outfield on August 22nd. He has not had a full calendar year professionally of playing the outfield. And I think the numbers defensively reflect that. If you look at his numbers defensively, he is one of the weakest outfielders in the major leagues because he's drinking from a fire hose defensively right now. Offensively, he's shown fits and spurts. He's had a 12-game hitting streak. He's had a 17-game hitting streak for the Cardinals this year. He's hitting mistakes right now, but he's 22 years old and he's learning on the job. In a perfect world, he probably would have spent the whole year for St. Louis at AAA. He's going to have to play the outfield or play outfield in DH here because Goldschmidt's not going anywhere. Arenado's not going anywhere. So he's got to learn how to play the outfield and play it at a higher level. And he knows that. He's up to the challenge. I think he's in that classic young player mode where he's out there and he's not yet relying on instinct and he's playing not to make a mistake. And that's a really, really hard place to be, especially in a place like St. Louis where the team's expected to be successful and win games. This isn't a tryout camp, ordinarily speaking. And he's basically trying out for the team on a daily basis. He's doing great. He's holding his head above water. He has a lot to be proud of. And I think we're all very excited about how much better he's going to be. And I would assume that when the season's over, he'll go play somewhere, get some more reps in the outfield to get ready for spring training 24.
I think outside of the Midwest, I don't think everybody understands what a great rivalry the Cubs and the Cardinals. Now, obviously, the Cardinals have got the better of it all these years. But I'll never forget, we're playing over there down in Mesa. We're at Hohokam. Cubs are at Sloan Park, and I remember I'm in the Uber, and I'm at the light, and I look over, and they've got these T-shirts where the Cubs are just ripping St. Louis as a city. And I'm like, this is spring training, and they're selling anti-Cardinal shirts on the corner. I went, that's a rivalry.
Yeah, Cubs fans came to St. Louis, and they were wearing shirts that said St. Louis is boring. And I would have responded by saying, yeah, but our beer's not $15 either, so, but it is a great rivalry. I've seen it from both sides, and that's what makes it fun. Chicago's always been and please understand how I'm saying this. If you look at the head-to-head competition when it comes to World Series and they've always been the weaker younger brother. And they're flexing their muscles now, and that's what makes the rivalry so good. When they go to St. Louis, the Cardinals want to beat their brains in. When we go to Wrigley Field, we know it's going to be a fight and it's going to be a war, and the fans are going to be on top of us. Hell, they even boo the broadcasters when they come back there, which is fun. But it's a great rivalry, and it does, as you said, it encapsulates all the Midwest. It's not just the Yankees and Red Sox, which is the Northeast. It's not the Dodgers and Giants, or you guys and the Giants out on the West Coast, which is basically California. But Cubs and Cardinals really has been a nationwide phenomenon, and you're right. The power of KMOX radio with Harry Carey and Jack Buck in the 1940s and 50s, from St. Louis west to the Rockies, north to the Canadian border, south to the Gulf of Mexico, and east all the way to Baltimore, and New York, and Philadelphia. That was the range of their 50,000-watt AM signal, and that's where a lot of people around our country fell in love with not just baseball, but with the Cardinals in particular.
Let's end on this. Is there anything better than beating Alabama and Nick Saban?
Oh, no. Absolutely. Well, yeah, I'll take that back. Yeah. Beating Florida. I hate the Gators, too. So we can throw this pile, too. Yeah, I can't stand them. Yeah. Gross.
Back in the day, Tennessee, but they really haven't been. But that SEC, people need to understand SEC is so different. Like every school, the tradition of all the schools, and every school has the rivalry, and everybody travels every single Saturday.
Oh, yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Well, I grew up in St. Louis and went to Georgia and went to my first football game in September of 1987. And I'm thinking, okay, it's a football game. Who cares? Because, Mizzou hadn't done anything. I grew up here in St. Louis. And I went to my first football game, and I was like Vinny and my cousin Vinny, like, what's a grit? That's kind of how I was when I came from the Midwest to the South, right? And I go to this football game, and I see, it might have been UCLA, drive down the field and score a touchdown on the first drive of the game. And I'm looking over, and there are sorority girls crying because Georgia gave up a touchdown. Well, something's a little different here. And sooner or later, you start to figure out with the frat parties and just the festive atmosphere of a Southern football campus when a big rivalry football game takes place. Everybody is really into it. And that's what we love about sports, right? It's that sense of common community. It doesn't matter race, religion, color, creed, political affiliation. If you are a fan of the team, you are a brotherhood for that particular day. And you're right about that's what makes the SEC so special. It is different. It's a step above. And to have experienced that, even in the dark days of Georgia football, was a lot of fun. And for my boys to experience a national championship while they were in school and me paying the tuition, it was a lot of fun too.
Well, hey, I'm so happy for you. As you know, you're one of the best in our game. We always appreciate your time, and good luck the rest of the season. We'll talk soon.
Okay, Chris, thanks. Good luck to the A's after they leave town.
Take care, Chip.
Okay.
I guess something started playing. I was trying to look up the college top 25 and to talk about after, and that's what happened.
Wow.
So I apologize. I'll send a message to Chip and tell him sorry, but thank you for the time.
Great Chip Carey.
By the way,
but how cool is that, right? Like, your grandfather is one of the legendary American broadcasters. I mean, Harry Carey was a star. I mean, when they're doing skits about you on Saturday Night Live, you're a star. And then his dad was the Superstation when we all grew up watching TBS. I mean, the Braves were one of the most watched teams in America for all sports because they were on the Superstation. They were always on. That was his dad. Then now his career, from the Cubs to the Braves to the Cardinals, and now the twin boys are doing minor league baseball. I mean, the Carey families, that's broadcast royalty in our sport.
I have his dad's call that you wanted earlier, by the way.
Yeah, this is his dad calling out, yes, Sid Bream.
Oh, boy. Here we go.
Dance in the streets, the 2-1. Swung line drive left field. One run is in. Here comes Bream. Here's the throw to the plate. He is safe. Braves win. Braves win. Braves win.
You call him Barry Bonds. I call him Tyrannosaurus Rex. Can't throw out Sid Bream from
one-legged Sid Bream, part great.
Shallow left field.
I'm texting Chip to say sorry.
He's great. I mean, just the voice, right? I didn't realize it sounds like there might have been a little issue there in Atlanta. I didn't realize that. But, I mean, to go back to St. Louis, yeah, you don't think of Harry Carey in St. Louis, but, yeah, I mean, Brick House and Carey, that was a powerhouse broadcast booth. They've only finished last one time in 100 years.
I think, what year was it? I want to say it was in the 60s or 70s is when it happened.
One time. That's unbelievable. I mean, like, I get it. And can you imagine their fans, how insufferable that must be? They're complaining that they're in last place for the first time ever.
Yeah, I'm off. Dead last. Last time they finished in last place, according to this, was back in World War II in 1918.
Excuse me, World War II was not?
No, World War One.
Okay. World War II. So World War One, the beginning of World War One.
Yeah.
Okay. That's kind of skewed a little bit. This because back then, to be in last place, there was a lot of teams in your division back then. We didn't break up all the divisions You just had the National League. That's really bad to be in last place of all the National League teams. Now it's not as big of a deal because you have 3 different divisions. But that, can you imagine how and their fan base? I mean, our situation is a little different from what's going on with all the different issues. But even if they weren't going on, people would still be angry, and you'd be like, wait a minute, you're in the playoffs in 18, 19, 20. 21, you won 86 games, and you're making trades trying to go for it. But fans want it every year.
So if we're looking at divisional era, right? So there's a couple of fifth-place finishes in here, but I don't know how many teams are actually in the division at that time. This is in the 70s.
Yeah, you would have been in the East, so there was more teams. That's back when the East would have been, Atlanta was in the West.
Yeah.
But Pittsburgh was in the East. Cincinnati was in the West. Like, just look at it. I'm in the wild card. That's my problem. All righty. Back in the day, who was in the East? So Philly was in the East. The Mets were in the East. Washington was in the Expos. They were in the East. Milwaukee was in the American League. Cubs were in the East. Pittsburgh was in the East. St. Louis was in the East. Dodgers, Giants, Padres, Rockies didn't exist. Cincinnati, Houston was a National League team. Houston, Cincinnati, and Atlanta were all National League teams in the West. That's how screwed up baseball you really used to be.
Yeah, I'm Googling it. Everything I keep seeing keeps saying back in 1918 was the last time they finished in last.
What time's our game?
Pregame's at 4, so we got a couple minutes left.
That's it?
Yeah.
Oh, I gotta get to this. Gotta spend money. Everybody wants to spend money. And I know some people always say, here he goes again. But once they do it, once you put it up on MLB Network, I'm going to see it. There's this other thing. All right, you ready?
Oh, actually, I'm seeing something what they finished in last in 1909.
I've moved on.
Yeah, we're done with the
I've moved on from your St. Louis Cardinals. I'm a Cubs fan now. Highest opening day payrolls in Major League Baseball. Can you name the 3 highest opening day payrolls Major League Baseball this year?
Mets, Yankees, your former team, the Padres.
Right. Mets opening day payroll, $330.6 million. Got to spend money. How'd that work out?
Not great. Verlander and Scherzer apparently didn't like each other again.
All right. New York Yankees, $277.7 million. They're number 2. How'd that work out?
Are they still in last?
They're in last place. They're 13 games back. Wait, were they in the wild card?
I think it's 5.
Your Yankees are 5 games back. Your Yankees, you Brian Cashman honk.
Hey, by the way, guess who plays this weekend?
Hey,
I don't know if it's Sunday Night Baseball because I think the League World Series maybe is going on.
Hey, if our sports not being exposed for the East Coast stuff right now, I mean, you're really throwing Mets on there, like all the different stuff that's going on in baseball, all these different teams, and you're still throwing the New York team on. Oh, because the rivalry. Who the heck? Braves, I get it, are incredible, but a lot of other teams, that's what's great about the NFL. The NFL highlights all their franchises, and they highlight all their franchises were doing well. What do? We do the opposite. 3, San Diego Padres, $248.9 million. How's that working out?
Aren't they like 6 games under?
Padres are 56-62, 15 and a half games back.
Oh, by the way, guess who they start a series with today?
What?
Guess who they start a series with?
I haven't checked the notes. Who?
Baltimore.
Padres, Baltimore?
Yeah, big one.
You've waited your whole life for that one. Wild card. Padres are 5.5 back. So the top 3 payroll teams, garbage, to quote the great Mike Gundy. That's garbage.
He had some good ones.
Come after me. I'm a man. I'm for it.
That ain't true.
Fat. Yeah. There you go. Spend money and you'll win.
Oh, so I don't see Oklahoma.
And that's the other thing for Shohei Ohtani about these teams. the smart teams, who are doing it right, obviously the Houston Astros,
pretty good.
Atlanta Braves, all these teams that are, when you look at, that are smart, that are winning, spending money, and they don't break the bank on anybody. LA can be a different beast because of but you know what? These teams the smart teams don't go crazy. You sign guys, you have a price, like Carlos Correa. You don't want to sign our deal? Bye-bye. We'll move forward without you. You always, it's okay to spend money, but you got to have payroll flexibility, and you don't break the bank. So what a really smart team, Houston or Atlanta, sign Shohei Ohtani? No, because it's not smart. It's not.
We looked at who the Braves' highest paid player is. It's Matt Olson, and then it's Charlie Morton at 21, and then $20 million.
God, I can just see Shohei becoming like what they have now. It's for the Dodgers. Clayton Kershaw, obviously going to the Hall of Fame, great player. Clayton Kershaw hasn't been the same guy in years. He can't give you the volume. It's just and you're gonna hit. But spending money, there you go. I got it right there for you. You can see that. Highest payrolls: Mets, Yankees, Padres start the season. All have been terrible.
Not great.
It's not. It just doesn't guarantee you anything. Guarantees you nothing. How about the St. Louis Cardinals? They're spending pretty good coin.
And by the way,
how are their aircraft? They got 2 aircraft carriers in Arenado and Goldschmidt. Goldschmidt's OPS in August is 530. 530.
That's not good.
That's not
good. He mentioned Jordan Walker. He is one of the worst defensive outfielders. I think he's third worst.
Jordan Walker's hitting 148 last 18 games. When he called up at the start of the season, you guys said he was the next Dave Winfield.
I already had his plaque ready. I put him next to Geloff.
You said, look at the size of him. Look at the bill. He's Dave Winfield.
Him and Geloff are in the Hall of Fame.
Is Jordan Walker going to be Dave Winfield?
Small sample size.
He's not even going to be Jesse Barfield. For God's sake. By the way, those are 2 old references right there.
Can't you think of a better Cardinal outfielder? Is he going to be
I'm trying to compare him. I mean, I'm not going to say he's Stan Musial.
Is he going to be Stan the Man or Ryan Ludwig?
Who was the guy? Outfielder, good player, also played football. He was a safety. Good player for the Cardinals. He was a safety for the Falcons.
Oh, Brian Jordan?
Brian Jordan. He's not even going to be Brian Jordan.
I remember him as a Brave and a Brave broadcaster.
He was a Cardinal, Brian Jordan.
Brave, too. And he's a broadcaster for the Braves.
Is he, Brian?
He was.
He's going to be no Brian Jordan, nor can he hit like him. On the football field,
You may run like like Mace, but you hit like Bleep.
We want to thank Chip Carey, and we also want to thank Jonathan Mayo. We got to cut up Jonathan Mayo. I think my whole age thing we're going to be bringing up in the broadcast tonight. A's baseball coming your way next, right here on A's Cast and the A's Radio Network. This is Chris Townsend and Commander Cody for Link Soul. You got to go to their website right now, linksoul.com. The new polos are unbelievable, new colors.